Hi everyone, I'm Trisha Morris at Club Scrap, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a fun new recipe for cards. Now, we're not going to be in the kitchen, we'll be in the craft room, but I'll give you the ingredients and show you the outcome. We'll make a set of 3 miniature slimline cards with just 3 sheets of 12 by 12 inch paper. Also, you want to grab your trimmer, some adhesive, and maybe some stamps or embellishments to create those cards. In the meantime, while you're watching, I just recommend you grab a cup of tea, sit back and relax and see how it all comes together, and then go back and watch the video again at your convenience to make a set of your own. Well, here's a sample of the 3 cards you can make, and the mini slimline card we're going to create here is just 3 by 6 inches. Isn't it the cutest little size ever? And I'm using Club Scrap's Galaxy collection. This is a kit that we just released on December 1st. And you know, one of the challenges you would have if you made this card is, where do I find the right sized envelopes? So the good news is that this formula that I'm going to share with you not only makes the 3 cards, but also the 3 perfectly sized envelopes. So once you make your card, you can just slide it right on in and hand it off or drop it in the mail. To get started, I am using 3 sheets of paper, again from that Galaxy collection. I'm using the teal, the purple, and then the print from our card kit. So every month we design a full collection of both a page kit and a card kit centered around that theme. So this was Galaxy. We'll be folding this paper eventually. So rather than just put it in the trimmer willy-nilly, I'm going to plan ahead a little bit and try to place the paper in the trimmer so that we cooperate with the grain direction of the paper. If I hold paper by just the center of one edge and I study that paper and see how flexible it is. Now, if I rotate one turn for that paper and this way, do you see how the paper dips down so much further? And that means that the grain direction of the paper is going this way. And eventually I want to fold it in that direction because I won't be fighting the grain. So in my formula, I'm just going to show you right here at the top. Do you see those arrows pointing up and down here, right at the top of the diagram? That tells you which way the paper should dip easily. And someone explained it to me that it helped them to think about the tips of the arrows that's on the diagram can kiss. So here we have our arrow and we're going to make those tips easily kiss. So that's the direction this goes into the trimmer. And since we're going to cut all 3 papers the same exact way, I'm going to take the second sheet of paper, check the grain, make sure it's dipping easily from top to bottom, and drop it in my trimmer. I'm going to cut both of these papers at the exact same time. So our first cut here is going to be at 11 3/4. And with this particular trimmer, I always just press down on the clear bar and make sure the paper is nice and squared up and along that guide there. And then let's slide down to 8 3/4. And I'm going to rotate this large piece, and we'll cut horizontally now at 9 1/2 and 6 3/4. Now this large piece here becomes the envelope. So I'm just going to make a pile for each size piece that I'm making. Then the next rectangle to the right of my blade, I'm going to cut at 7 3/4 and 5 3/4. So this makes like a rectangular panel, and then we have a medium-sized piece and then a pretty small one. And again, I'm going to make little piles for every single size I'm creating. And then you have this remaining long piece that we'll cut at 7 1/4 and 5 1/2. So here again is another size panel, slightly smaller and even smaller. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little piles off to the side here, and I still have 1 more sheet of paper. Now this is a long skinny one. This actually becomes the card base. We're going to end up folding it in this direction to make our mini slimline. So I got yet another pile, and then these 2 skinny pieces, you can probably scrap those unless you decide to use them. Now we're going to repeat that whole process one more time with this gorgeous Galaxy print. Once again, after checking the grain, I'll cut at 11 3/4 and 8 3/4. Rotate, cut at 9 1/2 and 6 3/4. That creates another envelope and another rectangle that we'll cut 7 3/4, 5 3/4. So I got my rectangle. Find the matches for all of these on your little piles, and then I have another smaller piece here that this one I'll cut at 7 1/4 and 5 1/2. And I'll add these to my little stacks. Here I have the card base, and then something I can dispose of if you want. So really, there are almost no scraps when you do it this way. We've done all that planning and all that math for you. And now that I'm done with my trimmer, I will grab my score pal. And we just have a little bit of scoring to do. Let's begin with something nice and easy. I've got this is a 3x12 right now that I'll score horizontally at 6. And that said, you really don't even have to score these because we did plan ahead and trim that paper to cooperate with the grain direction. It's just a simple fold in half. Here's a little tip for you. You can use your score pal to not only score, but also as a jig to help you fold more accurately. So once you get the corner of the paper in the corner of the score pal, you can confidently make your crease knowing that the edges of the paper are going to be lined up perfectly. I think if you're low vision, or if it's just you have a hard time getting those edges lined up nice and neat, that's a great way to do it. Then we're going to score the paper that becomes the envelope. So if you place it, let's see, horizontally in your score pal, and we're going to do 1.5 and 7 3/4. Then rotate so it's vertical, and you're going to score at 1 3/4 and 5. So you repeat that again. If we start horizontally, 1.5, 7 3/4, 1 3/4, and 5. And one last repetition for the purple, 1.5, 7 3/4, 1 3/4, and 5. Okay, everything is prepped for all of our cards. I can set my score pal aside. Now at this point, I'm going to show you how to make one of the envelopes. Obviously, the other 2 envelopes would be made the same way, and I'll just make the purple one today along with you. Now, if you look, you have these intersecting score lines. So basically, you can begin by removing the corner of each scored area. So I'm taking out not only the corner itself, but also the score line. Now, when you do these wider sidewalls here, if you wanted to just make a slight dart and angle in a little bit more, what I am looking for though is a nice straight line here on these shorter flaps. So maybe make this one nice and straight, and you can angle in slightly coming in from the side. Okay, so there's the bottom corner. Now if I rotate around, I'm going to cut again, trying to keep my angle straight. And then I can dart my way in there. I'm taking out the score lines to make flaps. Go to the corner. I can angle in a little bit. And that gives me the base of my envelope. Now, if you happen to have a corner chomper of some kind, you can go ahead and pick a radius. I'm going to go 1/2 inch radius on the longer flap. This is going to be the top flap of the envelope. That nice longer one. And if you want to do like a 1/4 inch radius on the smaller flap, you can do that too. But notice how it doesn't really quite fit on there. I can't get my corner chopper in place. So that's not a problem. All you do is fold in those side flaps, and then it fits right in there, no problem. So obviously, yes, that's the next step, would be to fold in on the flaps on the score lines that you've made earlier. And I bury the bump of the score line. So every score line has a divot and a bump. That bump goes on the inside of the fold, in case you didn't know that from a previous session with me. Next, I'm going to take one of these longer flaps, and I'll run my tip of a needle tip applicator filled with bookbinding glue along that seam right on the top. Before I close anything, I'm just going to make sure this side gets a nice tiny little application of glue as well. Stick pretty close to the edge there, but when I combine these up, I've got a nice adhesion for my center seam of the envelope. Now, you've got the long flap that I want to have at the top, and then I'm going to have the shorter flap down at the bottom. So again, with my bookbinding glue, I'll just run around there, and that's going to seal beautifully. It'll hold very, very well. It's a nice sturdy envelope, and it's going to perfectly hold a 3x6 mini slimline card. So of course you'd follow the same steps with the other 2 envelope papers. Now we have our card bases. So this part is, you can be as creative as you want with the color distribution. If you wanted to make 4 cards, you would use 4 sheets of paper. You'd get 4 envelopes in 4 different colors, but it works really well with 3. So those are the 3 card bases. Now I'm going to find the panel that's the next size larger. So that's my larger rectangles. And basically what I do is say, all right, this is purple here. So the panel that I put on this card first, can be purple. Now this was a print, so I'll put the print here, and then this was teal. So I'm just circulating the colors on through. So here's my purple here, so I'll add one to the next card, print, and then teal. So now I have all these wonderful layers that I can work with. Next, I have these medium and smaller rectangular panels. So I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'll go print, teal, purple, and then the print will go here, and then teal, purple. So you just keep rotating around until you're happy with how the colors have been distributed. Now I even have these smaller little pieces, and you know, I made a version of these cards that did not use these at all. They're just scraps, but you can do something to use them if you want. Now I didn't write this into the original formula, but do you see you have this skinny little strip here. So I can take, let's just see if I want to distribute the strips. They're going to be the same width as the larger panel on the card. I'm going to do that and then that. Now these actually are the right width, but they're a little long. So if I just trim this piece to 3/4 of an inch wide, I can use it. So I'm going to show you how I do that. I know a lot of you would think, oh, that's such a big trimmer to create such a little piece, but it's very easy. If you just bring it into the trimmer, you find your 3/4 of an inch, and you have the ability to stabilize the paper safely by pushing down on that clear bar and just give that a slice. In fact, I can do 2 at a time with these last 2. And again, this is a bonus cut. You don't have to make this cut, only if you want to be able to nest a little sentiment onto your card. So this way, I even get several chances to stamp successfully if I wanted to. So now I can take some of these sentiments here and distribute them onto the card. So I have everything laid out now, and let's just go ahead and finish one of these cards together. At Club Scrap, we come up with a beautiful sheet of photopolymer clear stamps every month that coordinate with our collection. And this one just happens to have a lot of these narrow, skinny little sentiments that are perfect for this card. So if I just pick one, maybe Follow Your Dreams, They Know the Way. Now before I stamp this onto that strip, I just want to make sure I get it mounted nice and level. So with this dust blotter here, I'm going to place the image down so I can read it. It's going to be level right on the grid of the pad. Then I'm going to come in with my, this is kind of a dirty mounting block, and just line up the grid on the block with the grid on the blotter. And now I know the image is perfectly level. Then I plan to emboss this just because it's a dark color, so I will add some anti-static to this, and I'm just going to come in with our white pigment ink so I can see that I've stamped nicely, and this is going to work great with my embossing powder. So I've got my sentiment here. Then if I place this on a grid, when I go and stamp on it, it's going to be nice and level and centered as well. Great. So I will take some of my powder and sprinkle it onto my piece, even though it's quite small. Got a nice crisp image there, and then I will hold it with tweezers and heat set. And that turned out really nice after I melted the powder. So now I can kind of do the same thing here with this larger image, and I'm going to again come in with my white pigment ink. And obviously it's a big image and it's a little panel. That's totally okay. I can get essence of big image on my little panel. Keep that in mind. Like, never limit the size of panel you can stamp onto just because it's a little on the small side. It doesn't mean you can't use a portion of a larger image. And then you can heat set this as well. Now, while I have my stamping equipment out, I want to plan ahead for something on the inside of the card. So what I've done is trimmed a separate liner. Since the card base is quite dark, I am going to take a lighter colored panel, in this case just a plain white, and I'm going to do my little mounting block trick again. So I'm going to put this on the grid, make sure it's level with the grid, come in with my mounting block that also has a grid on it, and I just align the grids, and then I know the stamp is straight. And I'm going to add some nice black ink to this stamp. And then with my paper level here, I can come in and stamp my sentiment. Look at the stars, look how they shine for you. Nice. I just like to get it right the first and only time, right? And then I have one other fun image. I'm going to ink this little burst of light with some yellow. I always like to bring my pad to the stamp rather than my stamp to the pad. And I'm going to accent this word shine here with this cool little burst. Oh, I love how that turned out. Fabulous. And now we're ready to assemble. And this part is so easy. All the trimming is done. All of the stamping is done. And if it were me, I would do all that stamping at the same time for all 3 cards, or however many batch of cards you're making. It's just like cookies. You can make cookies 1 dozen at a time, or you can make a triple batch, a quadruple batch, whatever you want, and get a lot of card making done very efficiently. So now I have my layers, my panels all layered nicely on my card base, and I can add my little piece of art. And for this piece of art, I want it centered. So I'm going to go from the top. I'm going to use the 0 center of my grid ruler, and I'm going to go to 1/4 inch from the top of the printed panel, 1/4 inch from each side actually. And now I know this is nice and centered on these 3 sides. Next, I can take my narrow piece. So I hope that, you know, if you're a stamper, if you're not, maybe you're getting some tips along the way here, just some ideas as to how you can improve your efficiency, your accuracy. And now for a last little embellishment, I like to make just a little basic bow by making 2 loops with my ribbon. I actually did a whole video on ribbon basics that for Stampin' Scrapbook Expo that I can share with you. Had a lot of fun just showing all different ways to make bows. Super easy to do, and it lays nice and flat and keeps the knot size quite minimal. And I like to attach these with glue lines. Now, I'm a big fan of using the right adhesive for the right job, and the glue lines seem to work just perfectly for this type of ribbon attachment. Of course, our bookbinding glue works well too, but I think that's my favorite. Then, with the front complete, all that's left to do, and I've gone ahead and done this, is attach the inner sentiment to the card. Of course, the efficiency comes in when you make 3 at a time instead of just that 1 at a time. So I hope you're able to use the tips that I've shared in order to make the 2 remaining cards. One last finishing touch that I want to mention to you before we move on to see some other ideas is that if you happen to have some leftover stickers, in this case, these are star-shaped dazzle stickers, big favorite of mine. I absolutely love. They're low profile. They're just the right amount of tasteful embellishment. Take the tip of a tweezers or a craft knife like I'm using here and attach some fun little stars. So again, this is the super fun set made with the Galaxy collection. Check out the 3 masculine style cards I made with the same formulas and 3 different sheets of paper from our In Transit kit. I stamped the outer envelope, and then I made these adorable cards without using the narrow panel. This just uses the larger one, and I took some brads or even staples to attach some grosgrain ribbon to the top to mimic a camera strap with that camera stamp, and each one has a sentiment on the inside as well. So much fun. And then another colleague of mine, Julie, she actually helped develop this formula. So here are the 3 original envelopes and cards she made on a test run with this fun formula, and used that little method I showed you of trimming these to fit beautifully with the Be Joyful stamp from our Let It Be collection here at Club Scrap. I really hope that you learned something new today. I appreciate the privilege of your time, and I want to use our time together wisely so that you can gain skills that transfer into all of your paper crafting and card making. If you haven't yet given Club Scrap a try, here's your invite. Come and join us. Come see what it's all about. Try a kit or 2. There's no minimum time requirement for a membership. I believe strongly that it's my job to earn your loyalty. And we do ship our boxes out all over the world every single month. We've been doing this for 23 years. And we do have that beautiful Galaxy card kit available now if you join this month. So in our card kits, we actually make a full dozen cards, and our kits do include the envelope. So this is the pile of cards that our members made this month in December, and you can join our members as well. And this month we're doing a 5x7 wiper card. I'm not sure if you've seen these, but these are really fun. And the sentiment is so cute too. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, you were born. Isn't that great? We've got 2 of those, and then 2 more with other sentiments as well. We have some really nice sentiments. They were easy to do, and you're gonna love this kit to the moon and back, right? We also are making a regular Slimline card. This is 3.5 by 8.5. We're making 4 of those, and then we're also making a simple single folded A2, 4 of those as well. And all of our cards come with both the inside and outside ready to go. If you like to stamp, you just flip over the pre-prepared panel and flip it over, and you can stamp whatever you want on the other side. I won't have you just follow written instructions to figure all of this out, although I do provide them. You're also going to be able to participate in a monthly workshop video that I will lead to help you use everything we send in that box. So join us. We'd love to have you. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.